How's it going, everybody? You're tuning into the PG Consulting Podcast, and I wanted to do sort of like an intro to try and introduce myself. My name is Camden Hampshire, and I wanted to introduce the man behind it all, Paul Gonzales, and he's going to do a little bit of an intro of what this podcast is about and what our mission is and goal for the guests we have on and the knowledge we kind of put out there. So go ahead, Paul.
Okay, well, thank you, Camden, and welcome everybody to the podcast, our first one. I'm Paul Gonzales with PG Consulting, and what our goal was me and Camden, as two business owners, talked about all the information being put out in the different areas. So what we want to do is just have real conversations with people from different areas and ask them their perspective on different issues, and then you guys can make your own decisions. If you had any questions, we'll be interviewing different people. Hopefully, this is good. So.
Yeah. So tune in. We're going to be having an episode probably come out every single week. We have Robert from RobLive coming on right now. And on our socials, we'll be putting out an email for you guys to email us if you're interested in coming on the show or you know somebody that wants to come onto the show. So we'll be putting that out there. So stay tuned, and we hope to see you in the episode. Thank you. How's it going, everybody? My name is Camden Hampshire, the host of the PG Consulting Podcast. And today, for our first episode, we have Robert from RobLive. Thank you and welcome for coming.
Yeah, no pressure.
And we kind of wanted to interview him because he's kind of similar. You know, he's the host of RobLive, but you have many different fields. You know, you're a public speaker, an educator, a teacher at Sierra Pacific.
Yes.
Am I correct? Yeah. Yeah, and the founder of the Library for London project and also the co-founder for Reestablishing Stafford. And kind of wanted to bring you on and talk to you about, you know, kind of go into what did you get into first and how did you get into everything you're involved in? You know, you can kind of backtrack whether, you know, was it the YouTube that you got into first or the foundation or the teaching or kind of how did it all mold together?
Yeah, it started with education. So I'm in my 21st year as a teacher. So that's where it all began. And then through education, you start to recognize that there's some needs beyond just in the classroom for students, right?
Yeah.
And as I started to reflect back on my own, I think any good educator, right, any good teacher is constantly trying to remind themselves of what was it like when I was this age? Because I think that when you forget that and you become disconnected with their concerns.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember all the things going through my head when I was in high school. They were not academic, right? So, you know, all those teachers are like in love with this is science and science is everything. They lose the kids because we're thinking about the dance on Friday and the game on, you know, Saturday. So anyway, I got into that and then I started to reflect back on my own life. And I realized that I had benefited from some influences early on in life that not everyone had. And so right around 11 years ago, maybe 12, about 12 years ago, I was working in Santa Clarita as a junior high teacher, and a multi-million-dollar library opened up in our community.
Yeah.
Santa Clarita is a really beautiful community, well-funded. I would call it like the Clovis of LA County.
Yeah, Central
right?
Valley, yeah.
Yeah. So they had this multi-million-dollar library. We're in there. My kids are there. They're now like, 4 and 5 years old. And they're on an escalator going from the bottom floor of this library to the second. Wow. Think about it, an escalator, right?
Shows how expensive the building is.
Yeah, it was like multi-million. It was beautiful. And I thought in that moment, what are the kids of my hometown, London, what are they doing? And to backtrack, London is a small community out here between Kingsburg and Dinuba in the Central Valley.
Yeah.
It's a rural, unincorporated community, meaning that it is governed by the county. It doesn't have like an internal governmentship or a mayorship within the community. And so you have, just by design, people who don't live in the community making important decisions about that community, right? So the people within that community don't always feel like their voice is heard. So going back to that, I said, I need to do something for London. And so what would it be? And I said, well, the most impactful thing I had for the trajectory of my career was the library. I used to visit the library in another community, which was Reedley outside of town.
Yeah.
And I realized what a benefit that was. And so I said, all right, well, that's what I'm going to start. So I got this idea to collect a bunch of books and bring them to Kings County. I'm sorry, Tulare County at the time, because I was in London. And so that started to build into something, right?
Yeah.
An idea. And so I started gathering people. And then I started to realize that I could have a bigger impact if I had a presence on social media.
Interesting.
So I said, all right, well, let me start a Facebook page. Let me start documenting all that I'm doing with the library, right? And then I kind of got hooked on Facebook. And so I realized over time that the library happened for a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest ones was that we became visible amongst a much larger population because of social media.
Yeah.
And so I started to realize the power of that, how I could leverage that for something good. So that was my first nonprofit. And that was like boot camp, right? When you first try something, you're figuring it out.
Like a trial run, yeah.
Trial run. So I made a lot of mistakes, trial and error, learned what a 501c3 is and how that all works, and how when businesses donate to you, you can have a tax write-off. And so you start to learn what the benefits are to people who might potentially be interested in sponsoring your idea.
Yeah.
So then that transitioned into, I need to move back home because I have a lot of work needs to be done in Central Valley. I've got to be present to do that work. And so I left Santa Clarita, moved here, and then I started a second nonprofit because when I moved back, I was living with my mom. She had this large home. She bought it for a foreclosure. You guys should come out. And it's in Stratford.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we're living in Stratford. We're noticing all the needs in that community and realizing that they have some needs as well. So then I get with another partner from Stratford and say, let's start a nonprofit here. 11 years later, we're still in existence. It's called Reestablishing Stratford.
Wow.
And we're designed to bring resources and services that may not already exist.
Yeah.
For example, we have 3 food distributions a month that now come to Stratford, where in the past, a lot of those distributions had to go to neighboring communities. Stratford residents would drive over there for them. Now it's within their community. Through Sheila Taylor and some sponsors, including Leprino, we now have youth sports, right? And so that's youth sports happening seasonally throughout town. Whereas before, if I'm from Stratford, I drive to Lemoore for youth sports. So essentially, we're trying to bring things that other communities have to Stratford in a way that's accessible and affordable for the residents.
Yeah. Cool. So obviously you have a very well, background when it comes to, starting these foundations.
Yeah.
What would you say is like the biggest roadblock you've seen with starting these foundations and getting them up and running and the wheels turning? Like, what is something that you've struggled with, but also something that, with that struggle, you learn something and you can kind of, going on with your foundations and maybe even creating further foundations or in the future, like what have you seen?
You have to understand the politics of the county that you're working in. So for example, in Tulare County, I was the golden child.
Yeah.
When I was in Tulare County and I came home, they're like, oh my God, he's from London. We love him. He's bringing a library. Everybody's on board.
Yeah.
And they love you because you're from that county, right? And so you have roots there. It makes sense that you want to do something there because, no one's questioning your motive because they're like, oh, obviously he wants to help his community. He's from London. No brainer. When I got to Kings County, right? I'm not from Stratford. I lived there with my wife and kids and they went to Stratford schools and we were there for about 2 years, but I'm not from Kings County.
Yeah.
So now you got this new face in Kings County trying to do things and there's some skepticism with that. It's like, well, what's his agenda?
Yeah. What's
Right?
he all about?
I can't even tell you how many times in Kings County I've been asked, when are you running for office? Right? This is like a campaign thing.
Yeah.
It's never been that, right?
They think they're just trying to go in there and get votes and run out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of skepticism. And so I kind of took that personally at first, like, wow, I'm not really welcomed here.
Yeah.
Or I'm not the golden child anymore. But I had to learn that every county is different and that you have to be conscious of the politics in that county and how things are run. So I would kind of equate it to, let's say you're having a house party, right?
Yeah.
And Paul brings me in as a guest here, a house party, and I don't know anyone there other than Paul. I'm not going to come in loud and boisterous and go inside your fridge and start drinking your beer, right? And throwing up on right. They're going to get this guy out of here.
Yeah.
Because you're coming into someone else's place and trying to make it your own. You're not respecting what exists. And so I would say anyone who wants to go into a county and do good work, honor what exists currently and be respectful in your movement of that. So for me to come in here, to Kings County, I had to get to know who the county supervisors were. I had to get to know who the other local nonprofits were. And I had to, because it's also this thing, like, it's kind of insulting. Some people take it personal, like, well, wait a minute. Why are you saying we're not doing any work?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're
Yeah.
stepping on my toes right now because
Yeah.
you're saying that all this needs to be done in this community. Well, what about the work I've done?
Yeah.
So there's kind of some kickback.
Some work can get unrecognized for sure.
Yes. And I never expected that, because I thought if I go into nonprofit, my motive is clear that I'm not trying to make money. It's literally called nonprofit. So I don't think anyone would question my motives, but that's not the case.
No, that's not the case
It's
at all.
So that's the first thing I would say to anyone is learn the politics and culture of the county that you want to do work in. Be respectful of that and find your way into that, which is your own lane and things that you want to address, and also respecting what already exists. I remember it was very disrespectful at the time, but I went to London and I started doing this library project. Well, there was already a gentleman there, Matt Naylor, and he was doing a lot of work in London already, right? His more faith-based work, but it was important work that he was doing.
Yeah.
Well, the first media television coverage of what I was doing, the opening line was, "Not much happens in London, California." That is until Rob Isquierdo. You see what I'm saying? Like, they just stepped all over the work that Matt did.
Yeah, exactly.
And I remember him being hurt by that. And I was like, oh,
Well, it's kind of like a slap in the face. They see it as just like a small town, and
Yeah.
there's nothing really going on. There's not much happening. And no, I can definitely see. I kind of wanted to get into, like, what kind of issues do you see in a small town, I guess you could say, like Stratford, and also, like, what kind of political leadership qualities do you see, like, what kind of political leadership qualities are lacking in a big, place meshed together like the Central Valley?
Yeah.
And what are some of the things that you see that you could, potentially have an opinion on or even make a difference with?
Well, one thing that I would like to see happen, and it does happen to some degree now, there is an organization, but maybe just a little bit more present, is a recognition of the unincorporated rural communities. I think when you sit at the table with politicians and when there's government meetings, et cetera, you have a fair amount of representation and voice in the larger communities. Like, so for example, Kings County, right? You'd have Hanford, you'd have Lemoore, you'd have Corcoran, right? Some of these other towns, right? They've got this kind of internal organization where their voice is heard and they're used to advocating for themselves. Some of the smaller communities tend to get overlooked because people from those communities are either not always aware of how to work within the system, or maybe just kind of in survival mode.
Yeah.
Right. When I think about the toughest times in my life economically, I'm just trying to pay the bills. My mindset is I don't have time for a town hall meeting. I don't have time to advocate for myself at the county supervisors board meetings.
Yeah.
Now, those things are all vital and important and necessary, but I'm not doing them because I'm just trying to pay the bills.
Yeah.
In some of these smaller communities where there's economic struggle, it's a survivor's mentality. Whereas in, like a place like Hanford, right, you have some people who are a little more affluent than others. So they have that time and wherewithal to know, hey, if I want to get things done for Hanford, these are the channels and meetings that I need to be present at. And so if there was anything I would like to see happen is a larger vocal presence from the residents of these smaller communities. And that's kind of what we try to do with Stratford. We were trying to get a roundabout done, and I was guided to attend certain meetings to try to make that happen. We attended them, and Reestablishing Stratford, fortunately, was able to finally get meetings with Caltrans, and we're going to have a roundabout created in Stratford, a $6 million project by 2030.
Wow.
That only happened because we figured out what meetings we needed to attend, what we needed to ask for, and how to ask for things. And that all is trial and error. It takes a lot of time and energy, which I can understand. Someone who's just trying to pay the bills may not have that opportunity.
I was going to say, with something like Caltrans in the state of California, it's probably a big and long, expensive process to
11 years, yeah.
To even 11 years, really.
As well, when we started the conversation.
Yeah, even starting the conversation. But that's even crazy to say. Like 11 years later is you're finally going to get it. And you said by 2030?
2030.
I mean, that's still, 4 years away. So that's a total of 15 years.
Yeah.
Like what, because obviously I'm born and raised in Hanford, and I've never really indulged myself or involved myself with local politics whatsoever. I mean,
me either.
Because I don't even know if anybody knows. I mean, especially like me, I don't know the first step. But like when you step into a new town, or it doesn't even have to be in the Central Valley, or it could be in California or wherever you are. When you step into a new town, like what are some of the things that you kind of notice that like, I think that would be a good idea for, my hometown or when I get back? Like what is something that you see that could be a good quality, whether it's the people, the buildings, the businesses, like what's something you see in those towns that you wish you could bring back to other places like Stratford and London and things like that?
So when we look at bigger cities like Visalia, Hanford, and Fresno, right, we do try to take some of the things that work in those communities that we admire and replicate them. One of the things that I really admire that they do is they provide these activities, these community activities that encourage the gathering of community members. For example, Fresno has a really cool thing called the Art Hop. I don't know if you've ever heard of that or been to it.
No, I don't think so.
But the people come out and they share their art, and everybody comes out to check it out. And so it's a place of gathering, and people get to know each other, right? Yeah. Hanford, to me, has one of the coolest, and I'm not just saying because I'm in Kings County, but when you look at the Winter Wonderland set up in the Civic Center, that's impressive. Yeah, people come from all over the place to check that out. That's a place of gathering. And it also instills a sense of pride, like, oh yeah, my community. We have our act together. We've got a skating rink. We've got, people come from different communities to enjoy what we have.
Yeah, that's why I was excited to see that Superior Dairy was getting new ownership. And I think, I'm not sure if you know anything about it, but I don't know. Do you know if I'm sure they're remodeling inside?
Yes, that's what I heard. And I heard eventually the interior will be reopened after it's all been upgraded. But even like a place like Superior Dairy, I know people come from LA and take the train just to get some ice cream and hang out. Right. And so sometimes we take some of these local things for granted because they've been there.
I was in Idaho one time, and I talked to somebody, and they were like, "Oh, where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Hanford in California." They said, "Oh, where's that at?" And I said, "Oh, I just tell everybody, oh, it's near Fresno." I feel like that's what everybody says.
That's the reference point.
And they're like, "Oh, okay, Hanford. Wait, is that the one with the ice cream place?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's it." Like somebody from Idaho. Yeah. Like they don't even live in the state. And it's like, it's crazy because that's what Hanford's known for. But then, obviously, with the ownership and what happened with the owner, and I get the whole, process of shutting it down and them not reopening, but it's like, that's a staple in a town like that. And that's very important, whether people believe it or not. So, yeah.
And so that would be one of the things we'd like to emulate, is this idea of creating these spaces of gathering.
Yeah.
And so we try to do town hall meetings. And matter of fact, the Caltrans thing, one of the pivotal moments was having a town hall where all the residents of Stratford showed up and voiced their opinion. Hey, we really want this. We need this. I think there are some really good politicians out there who want to respond to what people are asking for, but you got to think, as a politician, they're so busy with all the things they're trying to do.
Right.
They don't always get to hear all the voices. And so it's typically the loudest, most consistent voice in the room is what's heard.
Yeah.
And so as a resident of a community, you have to understand that and be that consistent voice, be that loud voice, so that you can garner the attention.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to go back to your teaching. What was something that made you want to go into teaching in the first place, and how have you kind of navigated through, I don't know, how long did you say years you were teaching?
21 years now.
Kind of how'd you navigate through 21 years of teaching, and how do you stick to it?
Well, at first it was all an accident.
Yeah.
I was a psychology major and graduated with a degree in psychology. So I was working at a group home in Reedley, California. And at that group home, I was a counselor, and I was with these residents who were between the ages of 12 to 18 years old.
Yeah.
And they had either substance abuse issues or emotional issues they were working through, or sometimes both. And I was a counselor there, and I remember these 12-hour shifts was very exhausting.
Yeah.
Right, being there, but you learned a lot. Well, at the time, they had a high school on site for all the residents, and so they would go to this high school there with its classrooms and all the different subjects.
Yeah.
And at one point, they needed a few substitute teachers, and they said, "Hey, don't you have a 4-year degree?" I go, "Yeah." I said, "Well, if you take the CBEST, which is a test you have to pass that covers kind of some basic subjects, you can be a substitute teacher for us."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Really? I'll try it." And so I started subbing there, and then I moved to back to where I went to college, which is the Bay Area, Sunnyvale, and that was my first teaching job at a junior high. And then it just kind of grew from there, but it was something I kind of fell into. I never planned to become a teacher.
Yeah.
I struggled to some degree in school, not because I wasn't intelligent, but I wasn't focused and I wasn't disciplined.
Yeah.
And so I slowly started to fall in love with it when I started to realize that I could have an impact on these students beyond just the curriculum. So rather than just teach an English class, which is in and of itself a task, I could teach some life lessons along the way, or I could embed some things that might help them outside of the classroom. Right. And I really started to lean heavily on that side of it.
Yeah.
And over the last couple of years, the big thing for me has been mental wellness. Right. This is the mental health matters wristband from Kings County Behavioral Health. But the color's lime green. I don't know if you knew that was the color. Like breast cancer is pink.
Yeah.
Mental awareness is
I didn't
lime
know that.
green. And so I started a program recently where we're wearing these wristbands, and it's kind of a nonverbal cue to students like, hey, we're here for you.
Yeah.
We're aware of mental struggles. We struggle sometimes. And if you want to talk, you can have a non-judgmental
Yeah.
advocate on your side to guide you towards whatever it is.
So so that's 21 years. Like, so that's around 2005, 2006.
Yes.
Have you seen, when it comes to, struggles with students, whether it's mental illness or whatever it is, like, have you seen sort of, what kind of shift have you seen from like the students back then, 2005, 2006 to now? Because it seems like, a lot of these, studies, it shows that as the years go on, a lot of teenagers or people even in their 20s, 30s, or even in their 40s and 50s, they're becoming increasingly more depressed, have anxiety, all these things. Like, what kind of shift have you seen from, those students back then to now? And what do you think that is?
Well, I think the easy old person answer is they don't make them like they used to, right?
Yeah.
Back in my day.
Yeah.
Right. That's the easy black and white answer, right? And what that means is that students today appear to be less resilient than they have been in the past. And so initially that was my conclusion. Like, kids just aren't as emotionally resilient, right? That's what my first impression was. And then I started to rethink that and realize there's a lot of things that are being thrown at them that were not thrown at me.
Yeah.
My world was much simpler. I didn't have some of the social pressures that come from social media.
Yeah.
I didn't have to compare myself to a kid from France.
Yep.
Because I didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah.
And so some would say that today's student is less resilient. I would argue that today's student is a lot more negatively stimulated. And that's what's making them less resilient.
Yeah.
Plus, I didn't have to go through COVID. School didn't shut down when I was, in high school.
I was a senior.
Yeah.
I got
you had to drive by graduation.
Drive through graduation.
Wait, where did you go to school?
Hanford High.
Yeah, you had to drive, right?
I drove up, got my degree, took a picture, left.
Yeah,
it was terrible. I didn't get a prom, a senior night, nothing.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, here's your degree. See ya.
Did some of your sports seasons were gone too, right?
No, so I played water polo, so it was the same time as football. So we didn't get really screwed over, but like basketball and all those, winter sports, going into the spring sports, they got all canceled.
Just shut down.
Yeah. And it was so weird because it's like they just kind of, threw us out and were like, hey, just go ahead and do whatever. Like, we don't care if you go to school or get a job, but it's almost impossible to get a job, and school's all online. It's on a computer. it like the culture shift was completely different. And it was just like, I feel like ever since then, there's kind of been this pressure on, you know, people in my generation that's like, you know, like it's impossible to afford a house, possible to afford all these things. And it's like a lot of people, men or women, even that are around my age, they feel lost. Like you said, like they feel like they're getting pressured by social media because there's somebody that they're not.
Yeah.
They see Instagram reels of people that, you know,
All
are
filtered.
driving nice cars and they're all filtered and they're not.
Or those are rented cars that
correct.
they don't even own.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, you're right. It's like a big societal pressure to be this big, great something when in reality, like all these people that are your parents and grandparents and like, they're regular people. Like they didn't have that.
Yeah.
You guys didn't have that when you guys were growing up.
Well, I'll tell you something else. And I don't know what your experience is with trauma, but one of the things with trauma is when you go through a traumatic situation, right? You don't really think about that situation prior to when it happens. And then once it happens, there's this kind of sometimes paranoia that sets in, like, it could happen again.
Yeah.
But you never thought of before.
Yeah.
So for you guys, right, in your case, you had everything that was normal to you in a matter of weeks taken.
Yep.
And now that it's back, there's still that insecurity, like, man, they could take it all away again.
Yeah.
And so you wake up every day a little concerned, like, are they going to rip away my life again?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
and that wasn't a thing I had to worry about.
Yeah.
Growing up, no one ever ripped my life away, and that to that magnitude. Say, hey, everything's shut down, restaurants, schools.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely a big, and I mean, that was 6 years ago. So it's like, I mean, me personally, you know, a lot of people have tried, you know, moving on from it, but like,
it's in the back of your mind.
Yeah. It's still in the back of your mind. Like, what do you, I always wonder, like, what would have happened if none of that even existed? I feel like everybody would be completely different people. And it's like, yeah, I mean, yeah. So kind of going back to, you know, the teaching, like, what have you seen personally to be your biggest struggle, and how do you overcome that? And then kind of going to, like, you know, the kids now, or just throughout the years, what's the biggest takeaway from learning from those students that you've learned personally that you never thought you would have learned from, you know, obviously high schoolers that are a lot less younger than you?
Oh, what have they shown me? I've learned empathy.
Yeah.
The level at which these kids sometimes think about each other and about me, it's very touching. Sometimes it's not what you would expect.
Yeah.
Because the stereotype is teenagers are selfish. They're all about themselves. But, you know, you find that that's not always true, that they really do have big hearts. Sometimes they're misguided, you know, and sometimes, you know, they're just trying to figure out life. But to some degree, I'm inspired by the way they think about others.
Yeah.
And do some things sometimes that you wouldn't expect. It touches your heart. I'm also, you know, when we talk about what I've learned from them, there's some things that concern me, you know, and in terms of the emotional wellness, right? The mental health struggles, it seems like the outcomes are they're becoming more extreme.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, I would be depressed and I might withdraw. We are now getting, unfortunately, a higher rate of people who are, you know, dying by suicide. And that's been my personal experience.
Yeah.
In the last 10 years, I've lost a principal. I've lost a student. My best friend's little brother. I've seen the suicide rate go up, unfortunately. And so that tells me that we have a combination of stressors and trauma that's, you know, we've never had before to this magnitude, and a lack of coping mechanisms to address them.
Yeah.
In my younger years, when I was a lot more ignorant to all of this, you know, I thought to myself, well, you know, only certain types of people would even consider suicidal ideation.
Yeah.
And so I had this whole stereotype about who that might be.
Yeah.
But today I've learned, I mean, it could be any of us.
Anybody. Yeah.
Because we don't know what's going on in here. And so my big thing now is checking in on everybody. And that's another thing I've learned from our students. They check on me. Mr. I, you good today?
Yeah.
I'm like, and at first, I'll be busy, like distracted. No, you good? And oh, he's checking on me. Oh yeah, no, I'm good. I appreciate you. Yeah, Mr. I got you. They're learning that too, to look after each other.
It means a lot. It really does.
Yeah.
Nobody like really understand. Well, I mean, obviously everybody understands, but it's like nobody really expects it when like somebody, whether it's your friend or you barely know them or you do know them, but not on a personal level. Like when somebody really checks in on you, like, hey, are you doing good? Like, hope you're doing well. Like a lot of people don't understand. Like that means a lot.
It goes a long way.
It goes a long way to a lot of people.
Yeah.
It really does. And I've noticed that with, like my generation, it's like there's some people like that, but there's a lot of people that aren't like that because like you said, like, with social media and all these societal pressures, it's like you do get some people that, they're kind of not necessarily negative about it, but there's some people that are positive about it and then some people that are negative about it. And I feel like those are the people that are negative about it. Those are the people that really, they're kind of to themselves and they don't really want to have to do with anybody around them. And so you really see like what those societal pressures do to, certain people and how they react in the brain chemistries. But you personally, you felt like when it comes to, those mental struggles or even like suicidal thoughts and all those things, you think that talking is the best way? Like what have you seen as the best way to cope with that and get over that?
I think the first thing is for them to understand that they're not alone. Because, you think about, I'm not trying to get too biblical here.
Yeah.
I am one of those Jesus guys.
Of course. So am I.
When you talk about, the Bible talks about us coming together.
Yeah.
And that's by design, because, where one or more gather, right? And that's mental health too, where one or more gather. It's a lot more difficult to make drastic decisions and allow your brain to go somewhere.
Yeah.
When you have somebody there, kind of like to bounce off of. Mm-hmm. All of my bad ideas, right? I've had really bad ideas. Right? Let's go to, right?
Yeah.
I've always been blessed to have a good friend to be like, hey, simmer down now.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm going to give you one quick example here. My kids will love this one. When I was in college, I was about to graduate, Menlo College. And we went to a nightclub the night before graduation. And I was hanging out with a big group of friends, guys and gals. Well, the owner of the club, I found out later, he was infatuated with one of the girls that was part of our group. And she's just a friend of mine. Yeah. But she loved hanging out with me and we're all dancing together, right? It's not even romantic, like we're just a friend. Yeah. Well, he kind of viewed me as, this guy's stealing my thunder, whatever. And I was like, so I got kicked out.
Wow.
With no explanation. But he owns the club. I was like, oh, I got to go. And he did a power move on me. And so in my intoxicated state, I went back to the dormitory and I went to go find a brick because I was going to break the big, beautiful window in front of his club. Yeah. The night before graduation.
Wow.
And so everybody's like, where are you going? What are you doing? Oh, no, I'm just going to go back. I'm playing it off. Right. And I take the big brick and I put it in the car and we're driving back. Me and my friends, they think I'm going back because I forgot my jacket. Yeah. But I'm ready to throw this brick through. Yeah. So we get there. And as we start approaching the club, now I've got the brick in my hand and everybody sees me with the brick. Yeah. And I get like jumped by like 5 guys.
Oh, shoot.
Right. Well, had I had an opportunity to throw it right after they tackled me, a cop car drove right past us. Wow. I would have been arrested that night. Never graduated. Wow. Potentially kicked out of school.
But, so you got kind of saved in a way, but not really.
But that's what I mean about, this, when we isolate and when we let our thoughts fester within. Yeah. And we're not accountable to anybody. Mm-hmm. Right. There's nobody to say, hey, Camden, you probably want to rethink that one. Yeah. Because you're not telling anyone. It's here.
For sure.
And then you go out and you do something drastic and everybody's like, man, I wish I would have been there for him. I wish I would have known what he was thinking. Yeah. And so for me, one of the things I'd like to see, I kind of lost what the question was, but
No, you're good.
I'd like to see more connection like we're doing now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree with you because like, I feel like that's a big, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, like faulting thing. Like when something happens to somebody, a lot of people go, I wish something would have happened, but it's like, you don't know.
You don't.
But
Until it's too late.
but there's
sometimes.
a fine line between like you don't know and like, you know, you also could have known because you were kind of ignorant to it.
Yeah.
So it's like people have to be really careful, like between, you know, the fine line of questioning, like, hey, is everything going okay? And like not really trying to get people upset. So it's like, it is really hard when people don't talk about it. But, you know, when you actually have those conversations, whether it's with anybody, family, friends, whatever, when you actually have those conversations and you say, hey, this is what's going on, it's that big stress relief and stuff. So it's like, no, I definitely understand.
Well, here's another factor that we maybe haven't considered yet. There's no downtime. I'll give an example. When let's say the cameras went off right now, and you say, oh, Tony, we got to work on this camera for the next 15 minutes. During that downtime, right? Paul would be on his phone. I'd be on my phone. You'd be on yours. Back in the day, that downtime, right, is when it allowed for communication.
Yeah.
But now we're distracted.
Mm-hmm.
So in the moments and the opportunities that I used to have to really hear what's on Camden's mind because we had downtime, I now fill that time with my phone and scroll through and update and whatever I'm doing. And so we don't get to have those conversations that happened in the past. I even think about trips. I don't know how many family trips you've been on lately, but we went to Pismo last week to go on this trail, the Bob Jones Trail.
Yeah.
And the 5 of us are in the car. It's me, Pearl, my wife, 3 kids in the back. And at one point, other than the driver, everyone else was on a device.
Yeah.
When back in the day, we'd just be kind of sitting there and counting cars and conversations.
Are we there yet type thing? Yeah, that's what I did.
And so that downtime has been just, you know, filled with distraction.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of interesting now that you brought that up, like being an educator, do you feel that the technology that they've involved the education schools with have helped? Or do you feel like there's a line between it's too much? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's like most things with technology, there's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
For social media, as an example, I live off of social media.
Of course, yeah.
You know, that's, you know, at some point that will be a source of income for me. Like it'll be my job. So I understand the benefits of reaching out to people with positive messages and connecting, but I can also see the other side, the trolling, the keyboard warriors, as they're called.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you one rule I have is that I don't have anything on any of my platforms where I have an anonymous handle. You know why? Because I will be a lot less responsible about what I say if I'm not held accountable. Right? So I have to think, hey, am I going to tweet this? Because it's my name.
Correct.
It's not anonymous 123.
Yep.
That can say whatever he wants and trigger people.
Picture.
Yeah, no.
I know.
So
exactly
everything has
mean.
my picture and you can trace it back.
Yeah.
I want that because that holds me accountable for what I say.
Yeah.
And I think twice about what I'm going to put out there.
It's a stress reliever for a lot of people because those keyboard warriors with no profile picture, no bio or nothing, whatever they're going through the day, they tried to put that on other people.
Project.
And it's projection. And I mean, I even saw that when I was doing street interviews. I would ask people regular questions. It was mostly like, you know, relationship questions, whatever. And I would ask them these questions and, you know, the people would respond in their own way, in their own opinion. But then I would still I'd be getting like threats in my direct messages. And I'm like, dude, like I'm just a mediator. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not even formulating my opinion. I'm literally just filming this person and I'm putting it out there. Like I'm not formulating my own opinion. Like
their responses were triggering something.
Yeah.
And you were the target.
Yeah, exactly. They throw that on everybody.
You're
and
like, what?
Yeah. I mean, but going into that, the whole social media thing, like with RobLive, what made you want to get into that and how'd you start that?
So RobLive started because the name itself has twofold. The first thing is on Facebook, you have a live button.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can go live on certain things. And so at first I was just introducing myself. Hey, this is Rob live from Disneyland.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Rob live in Los Angeles. And so then people who would kind of comment or whatever, they're like, hey, Rob live. What?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
So that was the first part. And then the second part was that I started to realize that what I really want to do with this is my resume, my portfolio. You know how as a photographer, you have a portfolio? Hey, this is my work.
Yeah.
This is my portfolio to streaming channels and networks out there that I'm capable of a live audience talk show.
Yeah.
It's what I want to do.
For sure.
And so I want them to see my personality, see how I interact with individuals on camera, and then build it from there. I want to be the first live audience talk show in the Central Valley. I want the studio to be here.
Yeah.
So that's the end goal with this.
For sure.
But when it initially started, it was because as a teacher, I would have these, what I thought were like, hey, that's a pretty good nugget of information that regular people could use and maybe potentially be inspired by, that I would gather from different lessons and I'd share. And I was like, well, these 180 students get to benefit from this, but not everybody takes my class.
Yeah.
And I feel like some of these messages I need to share on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
So that's where the first podcast idea, when it first started, I didn't have guests. I would sit there and I would say, okay. And then I'll give you an example. One of my first episodes is don't wait to get started. And then I would give an example of that. And then I would show, different visuals and then the steps you can take to get started on whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so I thought those messages would be helpful to other people beyond just the classroom. And then I started bringing in guests to interview, and then Jim built a studio and it grew from there.
Wow.
But initially it started out as a way to reach a larger audience with things that I thought would be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that's kind of, our goal with this too, is because, it feels good when you put out a message and people actually grasp that message and say, hey, like, I really enjoyed this, or, hey, I really liked this episode, or what you were talking about. And you are right though. There's a lot of people out there that formulate these ideas and they have these certain things that they want to do, but they're too scared for the camera or social media. Not necessarily scared, but they're just hesitant because they're afraid of getting judged. And it's like, that was the one thing for me, because like when I was I actually started, believe it or not, I had like 3 or 4 episodes, but I started a podcast in high school. Was like 2017.
You're ahead of the game at
nobody had been doing podcasts. And I was like, wow, it's kind of weird. I was a, 2017 sophomore, junior in high school doing this. But then actually I was like, people are going to think it's stupid, but I put out my first episode and everyone's like, oh, I love this. Like, oh, let me come on, let's talk about this. And it's like, it makes you feel good. Like it actually makes you feel like you're proud of something and things like that. And that's kind of why me and Paul wanted to do something, because we feel that there's a lot of people like you and people in different industries or whoever to put out good information, because as long as it, gets one person inspired or whatever the case is, that's the best thing. Going back to your show, like, how long have you been doing it, and what are some of your favorite guests that you've had on and talked to?
It's been 2.5 years now. We started in July 5th of 2023. Right. So that's 2.5 years. And so some of my favorite guests have been people who felt comfortable enough to share things on camera.
Yeah.
That they maybe hadn't shared before, because it's therapy to get it out.
Definitely.
Right. Because you hold it, you carry it to get it out. And I think it also helps other people when you're able to be honest and vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so I guess one of my favorite guests was a friend of mine. We went to neighboring high schools, and he's actually good friends with my partner, Jim.
Yeah.
His name's Jesse. And Jesse's a very social, happy-go-lucky guy. He's all over social media. I think he should have a channel. As a matter of fact, he kind of inspired me with all his antics.
Yeah.
Because he, kind of chronicles vlogging. Yeah. And so Jesse's a happy-go-lucky. He's the life of the party. He's always hosting parties.
Yeah.
And when he was on our episode, things got very real. And at one point in the episode, he shared how after his grandmother passed, because she was kind of like his stability.
Yeah.
And when she passed, he tried to end his life. and the gun didn't go off.
Wow.
Nobody knew that story. He hadn't told family that story. And here he was being vulnerable with us. I felt honored that he would feel comfortable enough to share something so vulnerable that could potentially help someone else.
Yeah.
To say, hey man, wow, this guy struggles like me. Like, I'm not alone in this struggle. It's a common thing, and maybe I need to reach out and get help.
Yeah.
So that was a very touching episode. Another one was actually the local stuff here. Things that happen here in Kings County. For example, there's Christy Kamara was on, and her son died he was murdered, filicide. And that's where I learned that term, which is when you're killed by your own parent.
Wow.
And so her son's father at 10 years old, took son's life and then took his own life.
Where did this take place at?
Here in Hanford.
Really?
Yeah.
How long ago?
I want to say about 7-8 years ago. He was,
I didn't hear about that.
Beautiful young spirit. Boy's name was Wyland.
Oh.
And so Christy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember now.
Okay, so now.
He was a friend of my sister's.
He touched a lot of lives, and his mom, now she's dealing with all of this, and she's such a brave soul because she wrote a book to just get it all out.
Yeah.
And the book, I had the book on my desk at school. I believe it's titled, "Can I Still Be Funny After My Son's Murder?" And she talks about the whole grieving process and how she's still grieving today and how every day is a battle, but she continues to move forward in his memory and to honor him. And she's actually passed the law now, right? So it's very inspiring to see someone with this type of tragedy still moving forward.
Making such an impact too.
Yeah. Because, how many of us would just kind of shrivel up and give up on life?
What was the law that she helped pass?
I'm trying at Wyland's Law, I believe what it's called, Wyland's Law. And the law is that, I believe it's in California, that if you have any record of mental illness, that you cannot purchase a weapon, a gun. And so in this particular case, her ex-husband, he had on record, I think it was, he had been diagnosed or recognized as struggling with some sort of mental illness recently. And he also had, what do you call it when you can't be around a person? 100 yards, 100 feet.
Oh, like a restraining order?
Restraining, yeah. So he had a couple things on his record.
Yeah.
And he was still able to purchase a weapon, the same weapon he used to take his son's life. And so she's like, there needs to be a law for this to keep the weapons out of the hands of people who are having mental struggles. And so she wrote a bill, I think it's called Wyland's Law, with her, and she partnered with some politicians, and I believe it got passed.
Wow.
So
statewide?
Yes.
Wow.
And so you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
that's inspiring to me that people would take a tragic situation like that and still be able to forge ahead and turn something positive out of it.
of course. Yeah, no, I think I forgot about that. That was a crazy thing that had happened. And yeah, you're right. I mean, like taking something like that, you can either take negativity out of that and do bad things or just surround yourself with negativity with that, or you can turn it into something positive. Obviously she still has that in the back of her mind, but it's something that she said, I'm going to write a book about and create a law.
And they have a bench dedicated to Wyland at Kings River. Yeah. Hardwick.
Yeah.
So she was able to get all these positive things out of such a devastating tragedy.
Wow.
And so that inspires me. So guess who, and there's a lot of them, there's a lot of stories out there, but when you see guests who are being so courageous in the face of adversity and you see them moving and forging ahead, not just surviving, but thriving, that's inspiring. So those are some of my favorite episodes.
Do you have anybody like this year that's lined up that you're looking forward to?
Yes. 2.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm being honest with you. I really look forward to speaking to all of my guests. That's why I choose them.
Yeah, of course.
Right? They're all invited.
Yeah.
But this year, one of my favorite groups of all time, because I'm significantly older, is called a group called New Edition. And through a connection with Paul, who's off camera over here, he has a friend who knows a member of New Edition named Johnny Gill.
Really?
And so we've kind of arranged that at sometime after their
That's
tour.
a rap group, right?
No, they're singers. Kind of like one of the original boy bands back in the day.
I feel like I've heard of them briefly.
Yeah, New Edition, they're pretty big for like the 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
And so they're one of my favorite Ultimate bands. And Paul calls me one day and says, hey, check it out. You're going to get a chance to meet Johnny. And so I met Johnny Gill. And then we followed up with that, and we talked to their mutual friend, David. And he's like, yeah, we can arrange for Johnny to be on the podcast.
Wow.
So I'm going to hopefully, after his tour, go out to LA, meet him, and
that's awesome.
And do an interview. That's one. The second one is Jose M. Hernandez, and he has a movie on Amazon Prime. Do you have Amazon Prime?
Yeah.
So there's a movie called A Million Miles Away. It's about a Mexican-American, born and raised, working in the fields, gets educated, and his dream is to go out in space.
Yeah.
And so he applies to NASA 11 times.
Wow.
And is rejected. And on the 12th time, he gets into the space program.
Really?
And he's the first Latino in space. And so they made a movie out of it. He has a book out it. And I had a mutual friend, and we had a Zoom about 2 weeks ago. And he's agreed to do an interview as well. And so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think I saw that on your Instagram.
Yes. So I'm going out to him because he has a vineyard.
Where's he at?
Lodi is where his vineyard's at. Yeah. Stockton is where he lives.
Wow.
So he's from Stockton.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So those are the two big ones but again, along the way, sometimes you have a guest that you book and you're excited about them for something, and then a completely different topic or moment happens.
Yeah.
I would live for those moments.
No, that's good too, because it seems like, because I think, yeah, like how many episodes have you done?
I want to say about 80.
Wow.
80. Yeah. It feels weird to say it out loud.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel like 80.
What's like the biggest thing you've learned from that after 80 episodes?
Let them tell their story.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I felt like I had to be an equal presence in the interview,
mm-hmm.
or maybe even more so than them, right? But then I realized, wait, if I wanted to hear myself, then I would just interview myself.
Yeah.
So kind of what you've done today, you've done a really good job of like, you just sprinkle in a little something to start a conversation, and then let the guest reveal.
Thank you.
Early on, I wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
I'd get excited about what they're saying, and then I would interject with my story. And the audience is like, well, we know your story.
Yeah.
We're trying to hear from this guy.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I've learned is to sprinkle and complement your guest's story rather than trying to match what they're doing.
Yeah, of course.
The second thing I've learned is and this is from Gary Vee. You know Gary Vee?
Yeah, Gary Vee, yeah.
So Gary Vee talked about this when I first started. He said, hey, listen, I know some of you are hesitant about starting a podcast because there's already 1 million of them out there. Well, guess what? There's only one you, right? And so the biggest mistake you can do is watch somebody else's podcast and try to do it the way they do it.
Compare yourself.
Because now you're just a bad version of them,
mm-hmm.
versus a really good version of yourself.
Wow.
And so the second thing I've learned is to, if you want to take some notes and some tips from other podcasters, great. But don't watch too many, because you will find yourself trying to emulate their style. Yeah. And now it's insincere. It's like, man, that feels scripted.
It's not original. It's not your thing.
Yes. And it sounds weird coming from you.
Yeah. And I've noticed that with a lot of podcasts that I mean, because everybody listens and watches podcasts. A lot of people, they like that person that has the podcast because of the content that they put out. But at the same time, most of them just like the podcast because they're them. They're that person, and they like that person, even though maybe they don't know that person. But what kind of personality that they emulate on social media and on those podcasts is what they are attracted to.
Yes.
So that's kind of what me and Paul wanted to do. Like you said, is kind of sprinkle in a little bit of each guest or whoever we're talking to, and literally just have them tell their story. And then, it's kind of up to the people in the comments to say, oh, I really like this person, or, oh, I disagree with this person on this, but here's why. And then kind of formulate their own opinion based on what they say. And no, that's good. And I think that's one of the only ways to go about a podcast. So, I mean, like,
it sounds cliche, but when they say be yourself,
of course.
You know who I like? I don't even think he's good. I don't think he's a good interview person, but I love listening to this guy. You ever heard of Bobby Lee?
Yeah.
Bobby Lee, the comedian.
Yeah.
I remember he had on this comic, Ralph Barbosa.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, great. We're going to learn about Ralph. Well, Bobby just kind of riffed off of Ralph. He's like, hey, you remind me of a turtle.
Yeah.
Are you the Turtle King?
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, wait, what the hell's Bobby doing? And I was frustrated because I wanted to learn about Ralph. And I said, this is a terrible interview. But I find myself gravitating to Bobby because of Bobby.
Yeah.
His personality, his sense of humor.
Yeah.
But I don't really think he's very good at drawing somebody else's story.
Yep. Yeah, no, I mean, it's like with anything. I mean, they're not necessarily good at something, or they're like, what the heck is going on? But at the same time, you just
like them.
You just like them for them.
Yeah.
And I feel like that a lot of people do kind of lack that, I guess. But so kind of like wrapping it up, like what are your goals for, the foundations, and what are also your goals for YouTube? I know you talked about some things for the YouTube, but kind of formulate what are your goals for the foundations, and then you can also add the YouTube goals as well.
So the foundation, we actually had a meeting. Paul, was that about 2 weeks ago, the spaghetti meal? Yeah. We had a meeting about 2 weeks ago, and being the current acting president, I brought in a big white, with the sticky Post-its, the giant ones.
Yeah.
Up on the wall, literally, right, Paul, as my witness. And I said, all right, everybody give me your top 5 things that you would like to see us accomplish in 2026. And so we wrote down all these things, and we're going to take those 25, 30 things that were shared, and then we're going to whittle it down to maybe 10 for the year. But one of the things that came up in all of that was that we eventually want to have our own physical space in Stratford. So right now, if Camden and his team came to Stratford looking for reestablishing Stratford, you can't find us. We are we're a social media presence.
Yeah.
But there's no physical building that represents us.
Yeah.
There's my mom's house and our storage container.
Yeah.
But there's no office.
Yeah.
So you can't find us there. A lot of times people have come, like radio or television stations, et cetera, do interviews.
Yeah.
Paul's been there for some of them. We just set up at my mom's house like this. Like we don't have our own community center.
Yeah.
So one of the goals for 2026, this goal has been there since day one. We want a physical space, a brick and mortar building where people can drive to and say, that is reestablishing Stratford's.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the goals for this year. There's like 25 other ones they listed. I won't get into all those, but that's one that's been ongoing. And then, so that's one thing we want to do with the foundation. As far as the channel, Jim and I have talked about wanting to break the 100,000 subscriber mark.
Yeah.
Right. And that's twofold. One's obviously a bigger audience, but also getting monetized would help free us up to do some other things.
Correct. Yeah.
Because we both currently are full-time educators and we love doing that.
Yeah. But
I would like to transition at some point into social media as the second chapter of my career. And obviously, financially it has to make sense.
Yeah.
To leave one thing into another. So I want to amp the subscribers up to 100,000 within the next 5 years.
Wow.
Would be another goal. And then the big ultimate goal is to have a live audience talk show.
Wow.
So it'd be me and you. There's the couch. I'm here. There's the live band, and there's the audience. And as we're conversing, they're reacting, they're responding. Yeah, like a late night show. Yeah. But based out of the Central Valley.
Yeah, that would be
so
great.
Once a week, you and your friends or whoever could be like, hey, let's go be audience members at RobLive.
Yeah. And
then they get to come locally. Because right now, you got to go to Burbank or wherever else. Paul, have you ever been on a show? Like in the audience?
No.
Okay, have you tried it?
No, I haven't.
So you can go to Burbank right now. They're always looking for audience members.
Like
sometimes
Jimmy
they
Fallon
pay you.
Or something?
Yeah, and you sit. Well, Jimmy records in New York.
Oh, okay.
But like the Jimmy Kimmel show.
Jimmy Kimmel, yeah.
Ellen back in the day when she was around, all of those, you could be audience members. You just wait in line, they give you a voucher, and you sit and you watch them record. I went to the Tonight Show. And that's kind of an experience of itself. You see the cameras, the action, they cue you to applaud, right? And it's much longer than the hour show because there's, you know, all these editing cutouts.
Yeah.
But you get to see how it works.
Yeah.
And it's inspiring. So I would like kids from the Central Valley, adults, residents, whatever, come drive to Fresno, come into a studio, be in our audience, see how all the cameras work, meet all of us in person, and react to us having a live conversation.
Wow.
That's the dream.
That's a good, I've never heard of anybody doing that. I think that would be awesome.
We'd like to be the first. And I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, meaning that like it already happened and now I'm just stepping on somebody's accomplishment.
Hey, I mean, even if it did happen.
I haven't heard it. Have you?
No, I haven't.
Yeah,
I've never heard of that. That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
If you want to go ahead and shout your socials out, where to find you.
Yeah. Hey guys, first of all, I just want to announce that this is a fake.
Oh yeah. The fake tattoo.
This was a prank on my wife, but look at how real these things look. I bought this for $1. Right. This is pretty cool.
Gonna have to scrub that off.
Yeah. I'm trying to scrub it off. It's been about a week now.
Yeah.
But I would love everyone to join and check us out on YouTube at RobLive. Right. You can just search those words up together as one. If you separate them, you'll get people robbing banks live on YouTube. That's not us. We're also on Facebook, RobLive on Facebook. You can also find me and Jim on Instagram and Spotify. And we have a Twitter account as well and TikTok, all under RobLive, one word, RobLive. We have some shorts on there. And if you like the shorts, come check out the long-term episodes. If you have an idea for a guest, please reach out to us on any of those social media platforms. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And make sure to follow us on Instagram, PG Consulting Pod, and then also same name on Instagram. And like Rob said, if you want to reach out for a collab, just go ahead and probably message the Instagram or we'll kind of formulate an email. We'll see what happens. But thank you, Rob, again.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.